Welcome to the Paramount Plus era of combat sports, and welcome to Zuffa Boxing. And this Friday, this gentleman, King Callum Walsh, will headline the first event in Zuffa Boxing's history here at the Meta Apex. Carlos Ocampo in front of you. Callum, your unbeaten start to your career has been super exciting. How would you sum up why you were chosen ultimately to be on the poster, to be in the main event, a 10-round middleweight bout on Friday to kick off the new era?
Yeah, I think it makes sense. I've been around Dana, I've been around boxing for a while, you know what I mean? And I've been proving myself in the ring, you know what I mean? I've been getting the wins. I just had a big win in my last fight, and just the fact that I've been around Dana so long, and pushing him to get involved in boxing, I suppose, more. And I've proved that I will fight anybody, that I will fight anyone, and that I'm really bringing the same mindset as the UFC, to boxing. So I think it's only right, that I would be the first main event, and try to, be given an opportunity to go in there and prove myself and to prove to everyone that that's really what I'm about.
Look, there can be sometimes you hear fighters saying, it's just another fight, I'm not going to worry about the pressure. Are you thinking much about the idea that this is something fresh and new, a disruptor in the business, and you, by proxy, are in some ways kind of the face of that?
Yeah, no, I'm enjoying it. It's a new experience. It's a new thing. And it's good. I'm very happy. This fight week is unbelievable. Having the Zuffa Boxing staff, help with everything is the best. I've seen it with UFC. I've seen how it works, and being here and having all this new opportunities, new things. I'm enjoying every minute of it.
All right, well, let's talk about this matchup. Carlos Ocampo, very well known in the boxing world, a former two-time title challenger, has shared the rings with the likes of Tim Tszyu, Sebastian Fundora, Errol Spence Jr. What type of matchup? I mean, I know what you're going to say, all action, because that's what Carlos is, but what type of fight are you expecting Friday night?
Yeah, exactly. I'm expecting an all-action fight. I'm expecting a real fight. This is a real opponent. This is a real test for me to prove myself. Like you said, he's been in there with big names. He has a lot of experience, and if I can beat him, if I can get him out of there, then I'll prove that I am up there with the best of them.
What do you think is the biggest challenge that Ocampo ultimately brings to the table?
Just experience. He has a lot of experience. He probably has some power, but at the end of the day, everybody is dangerous no matter who you get in there with. I'm not going to underestimate any opponent, and I'm looking forward to the test, looking forward to the challenge, and looking forward to kicking off Zuffa Boxing.
Well, your star has certainly been on the rise over the past few years. You get the opportunity at Allegiant Stadium last fall, the Canelo-Crawford card. You're in the co-main event. You score another victory, a decision win over Fernando Vargas Jr. to extend your unbeaten start. What is that experience like so early in your career to fight, not just in front of that many people in the stadium, but to really get your profile put out there globally?
Yeah, it was very good. It was unbelievable, to fight on such a historic card. That's probably something that will go down in history. That is a card that was sold out. There were 72,000 people there. It was the biggest crowd I've fought in front of, and I think it was a massive boost for me, to go out there and get a win in front of so many people, for my career, for my fan base, for everyone involved, and overall just a cool experience. It was crazy to see, my old coaches from Ireland came over, everyone was there, people that have seen me fight since I was 6 years old, to fighting in front of 72,000 people at Allegiant Stadium. It was a great experience, and it was good.
Well, look, Ireland has been a hotbed for combat sports for as long as we can remember. Two great legends, Katie Taylor, Conor McGregor, sort of in the twilight of their great careers. You know the opportunity you have to be that favorite son. What do you ultimately, as you step in now to the biggest fights of your career, what type of aura, what type of image do you want to create coming out of Ireland here and being a fan-friendly fighter?
Yeah, just always be myself. I'm not trying to create any character or be someone I'm not. I'll just be myself, and if you like me, you do, and if you don't, you don't. And at the end of the day, at least I know you'll like me for who I am. And Conor McGregor and Katie Taylor, these people have put on massive for Ireland, and I'm just trying to follow in the same footsteps and just put on for the country. I'm very proud Irish man. I represent Ireland in every fight, and I think we have some of the best fighters in the world. We're not fighting Irish for no reason, and I'm going to continue to show that.
I think the biggest compliment I can give you in following a lot of your early career is the stage is never too big for you. We talked about the fan base you fought in front of in the Allegiant Stadium with all that focus on you. Why is it that that's sort of not a problem, those jitters, those feelings? Because it feels like the first time I've seen you do an interview, you talked about who you're going to become.
Yeah, I don't know. I just have no fear of a fight. I've grown up fighting. I've always fought, anywhere, anyone. I've never being scared of a fight, and at the end of the day, I think no matter who's watching, whether there's 5 people watching or whether there's 5 million people watching, I'm still going to go out there and fight and try to perform and get the win, so I try not to think too much about who's there, what the pressure is, and even if there is pressure, I just try to turn it into motivation, just think about, instead of thinking of the bad, like, oh, this is the first Zuffa event, I'm thinking, yeah, this is the first Zuffa event, I'm the main event, and I'm going to go out there and perform, and try to put on a good show.
Well, you've acted like you've belonged up to this point, and of course you've got a very smart man in your corner, the Hall of Famer Freddie Roach. You once just walked into his gym in LA, off the street, and was able to build that relationship. What is some of the wisdom he's saying to you ahead of such a pivotal fight here to kick off this new era and to really advance your career?
Yeah, I've learned a lot from Freddie over the years. Me and Freddie have a great relationship. We always have had, and Freddie, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for Freddie. Everything that I've learned from him. But unfortunately, Freddie won't be in my corner for this fight. I'll be using wildcard coaches. Dickie Eklund and Marvin. They'll be doing my corner.
Yes.
Yeah, they'll be using. I'll be using them for this fight. But yeah, obviously I've learned a lot from Freddie, and Dave learned a lot from Freddie. So we will still be using the ways of Freddie Roach.
All right, we'd like to get a prediction from you on the UFC side, because it's a huge weekend for combat sports, TKO, Zuffa Boxing, and of course UFC 324. Paddy Pimblett coming into there in the interim lightweight title fight against Justin Gaethje. How do you see that fight going down? Because we see you cage side at so many of the big UFC cards.
Yeah, it's a crazy fight. It's a very good fight. I just met Paddy there earlier. I was wearing my United jersey for him. He wasn't too happy, but
no, it's Liverpool for days with that guy.
Yeah, but yeah, it's a very good fight card. I was just looking through the fights earlier, and I didn't realize how many good fights there was this weekend. Because I was so focused on my own fight. But my prediction, I think Paddy will get the win. I think the younger, fresher fighter, I think he will be tricky for Gaethje. I think it'll be a good fight, but I can see Paddy winning it.
All right, and to close, Friday night, the first Zuffa Boxing card in the main event, Callum Walsh against Carlos Ocampo, 10 rounds in the middleweight division. What should the fans expect in this one?
The fans can always expect to fight when I fight. You're going to be expect to be entertained. Tune in, and yeah, if you haven't seen boxing before, enjoy it.
He's the pride of Ireland, unbeaten King Callum Walsh. Best of luck to you, man. Thank you for the time.